Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the FAQ podcast. The frequently asked questions. Today's question and the conclusion of our 4 episode main question is how to find a spouse and love in Cape Town. We are again here with 𝐷𝐸 Kolbe, Director of Aspire Promotion and Director of the Halal Speed Dating. If you haven't seen those episodes, please look back. And we're sitting with 𝐸MTIAZ Hendricks, professional in psychology and life coaching. 𝐸MTIAZ, today's discussion will be about life coaching and why and can life coaching be an important subject inside the dating program, or not just specifically the word dating, but the journey of finding a spouse in your life. You know, we all have that moment in our life where we're going to start that journey. Some of it started at the age of 12. Some of it, our females in our community start even earlier, 7, 8, 9 years old. These ideas and things start coming into the head, of how we perceive the world around us.
Yeah.
What do you think with regards to your experience in life coaching? Or maybe start there. Maybe just give us some insight about where's life coaching start? When did life coaching start for you? And yeah, start there.
Okay. I want to jump on that question immediately. 𝐷𝐸 changed his pants. It's a new episode. Right. So I'll start with my journey first. So for me, there was a lot happening at the time. My very first encounter was 2014. Right. Everything was going good for me 2013. My first year at campus, it was all good and well. My second year, I took on different jobs. While I was busy studying, I had my first child, and it was a lot happening at the time. My marks started to go down, right? Okay. I had this decline. A lot affected me at the time because the psychology journey, you need to be outstanding in a sense that when you want to go into honors, you need to have like A's across the board, and they only take on 40 people, and there are 800 applications. So I had that idea in my mind. So now now it's 2014, I'm 1 year in already. I have 2 more years left for my undergrad, but my marks are going down. Yeah. My whole life is distorted because of the child. Well, you look at different things, man.
Yeah.
That affects you.
Yeah.
Right? So now I'm re-questioning everything in my life because it's not gonna happen for me. I'm gonna have to pick out the career path. I'm going to have to do something completely different because the way it's going now, I'm not going to get the marks I need to get into honors. Yeah. If you can imagine, like, for example, 𝐷𝐸 has been focusing on event planning for 5 years. Something he stumbles across, maybe he's, whatever is to happen, right?
Yeah.
And now he's told, or rather he's entering into a phase of, you won't be able to do event planning at all anymore. There's this disorientation that now happens because his identity was built on that. His career and his income, everything, right? So your mind goes everywhere. So this is what I was going through, right? It just so happened at the time that there was somebody completing their life coaching course, and he needed a client for 6 months before he can submit his how can I say, all of his assessments and his assignments and things. And he started with somebody, but that person was not consistent.
Yeah.
Right? Vernon, I'll never forget him. Right? He was a qualified lawyer. So what happened was, I was basically with him. So I'll never forget this moment. There was, I entered into the room. He said, are you going to commit with us? He said, yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to be here and I'm going to commit. My first year studying psychology was highly successful. I'm taking a tip, etc. He said, 𝐸MTIAZ, we're probably going to be here for about an hour. Drink this glass of water. I said, what you mean drink a glass? He said, drink this glass of water. And then he said, you're going to need it because of all the energy that you're going to use up. I said, we're sitting here, I've done this before,
Yeah.
I speak coming out of the ulum, I speak on the mimbar, I address large crowds of people. Like there's nothing that we're going to discuss here that I've not experienced before.
Yeah.
Right? I'm struggling with this thing. I need assistance with this. By the end of our conversation, after an hour, I was drained. I was done. I was finished. Right? So the next few weeks then followed from there, whereby we were submitting assignments and we were doing everything. Slowly, my marks started to improve. My financial situation started to get better. my fatherly, my husband skills, all of those things started to increase and improve because there was one element that we were addressing, and that was something I was struggling with. It was with regard to confidence. I'll never forget, right?
Yeah.
Going to the lecturers, asking them what I need to do, speaking to other colleagues of mine around me. So what the program of coaching, what that allowed me to do was to, even though I would have never have guessed that was something I'm struggling with, you know, because for the past 5 years, I've been on the pulpits,
Yeah.
you know, people are paying me to address in large crowds, like, what do I need to discover about myself? Not to say there was any kind of pride or ego in what I was saying, but logically it didn't make sense to me. Right? So
You was focusing your attention on something
that's what it is. That's
that
what
you
it is.
thought is not a problem.
Yes. Because
It
I'm
was
like,
that water that did the magic, eh?
he took note of the water. So when I had that particular experience, I was just blown away. And I thought to myself, imagine people are to take this journey to just stop the lens for a brief moment of looking outside. You know, I don't have enough money to do this. You know, the people around me are so negative, right? I don't have the proper living arrangement. My landlord is killing me. My employer always find everything wrong in what I do. You're just constantly looking out. You're just constantly in that
Like
state.
everything you said, I felt like I heard it yesterday. All in one day.
What
all
you,
that
oh,
com-
oh,
all
what
those
you,
complaints.
in what you experience.
Yeah.
So
It's all around us.
so in this session, whenever I wanted to project out, he constantly brought me back to, okay, but
Damn it.
he constantly just made me, took a mirror,
Yeah.
and he just, like, in a very verbal sense, and he did that. And then eventually it was me realizing that, you know, although you were doing all of these things, you left home for 4 years, studying in a boarding school, there's so much things that you still don't know about yourself. And that was my moment. And just that one realization, it took a few weeks. Just that one realization, I went immediately from 40%, hit it up again to 90% consistently.
Damn it.
And I mean, it's that was my journey, right? So when I talk about finding a spouse, marriage, all of that, the first thing I told Abdul Basit, you need to have these people reflect for a brief moment. In Attica, one of the very first people, right?
Yeah.
She's very live and open about it, so I'll share her story. She said that the first time I was on that mic to talk about the coaching experience, she said, why is this person asking me to? But I must consider what I must, you know what I mean, change or do or consider. And then she said, but once she was just so curious enough to actually engage in activity, she started to realize that there are insights here that I need to realize that might be preventing me from opening that proverbial door into my next journey. So that was my encounter, my experience with regard to the coaching world specifically.
And I think it fits so well with the discussion of marriage. Me wanting to get married, or, you know, in that take the journey of marriage.
Yeah.
That like, we don't, whether we realize, for me to say after 10 years of being married also, that a lot of how you find success in that union is a lot to do with the self. Well, I was at one of my Aunt Ali's marriage class, so we're all familiar with his marriage class. Potent marriage class. 10 years in, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yes, I know.
And things, specifically one thing he mentioned, like, if you want your spouse to adapt a certain habit, you need to do it from your side first. If you want her to be someone who cares about if you ate before you sleep, then you make sure that you ask her, did she, you know, it's like a mirror, like you mentioned the word mirror a few times.
Yeah, I just show you the mirror.
If you want, but you, like you said, we come from a world and a life where it's just, what do I want, and how can I make sure that other people give me what I want? That's it.
That was the conversation.
And that's the conditions, like, of one of the, if the people that's in marriage, people go through divorce, they will tell you that he didn't meet my needs. Did you maybe ask yourself, maybe, is your needs even something that needs to be discussed? You know, it's like, what is your needs, you know? And I think, well, what you're saying with life coaching, it seems like everything that you're mentioning, it bonds well with this.
Yeah. So the issue that I have here, Zakir, is that it's just like how, you know, everybody's speaking about it, that I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to get rid of this anxiety, this depression, this
yeah.
uneasiness, this pain. I want to get rid of this pain. You know, I need to get married, man. You know, but all that marriage is gonna do, if you have unhappiness outside of it, your marriage is gonna make you more unhappy. If I have depression, you're gonna get more depressed in your happiness. I need to know how to find those things and not give that responsibility to my partner to give to me, man. And it's really about, you need to really look and focus, shift on what is it that is creating these emotions and these feelings. Fix that. Then you take that wholesomeness of who you are into your marriage. Then you'll blossom and you'll bloom. So when you look at, I don't want to play around too much with, you know, advices from our dean and our faith, but we are told, you know, your marriage completes half of your deen. Right? So it gives you half of all of those good things. Right? When I look at it, and just as I'm thinking now, if I have an addiction problem, or if I have a problem controlling my anger, or I have I have a problem with you know, with confidence or low self-esteem, and when if I get married, I'm taking that into my marriage. There's gonna be things that my spouse is gonna do that's gonna make me feel less confident, more low self-esteem. It's just it adds, it amplifies all of those insecurities, you know. So that is basically the conversation. Like a real being responsible enough, but we won't take that on immediately, because I know if I start doing that, I'm gonna have to start taking responsibility for a lot of things in my life.
That's what we don't want. And unfortunately, I've seen in my own circles that we advocate against that. You know, we build communities and like-minded people around us that will share that sentiment. That unfortunately, hears a lot with the female communities. You know, in the sense of he wasn't good enough. You know, he didn't deserve you. These types of things, man. You know, like. Did they push a button?
Deserve you.
Yeah, things like that. And I understand, you know, it's a sense of trying to keep yourself, you know, how can I say, out of the discussion, which in many cases you are right. Maybe it was him, you know, but as a Muslim, I'm also
pointing it out is not going to improve.
Yeah, and as a Muslim, I always believe, and something that I discuss a lot is that the fact that we know that our deen and our iman tells us that Allah, our Lord, is a just Lord, you know. So whatever happens to you in this world, we have to understand that it is either a test or it is what you deserved. You know what I'm saying? So, and you have some sort of accountability in whatever you went through. We are finding divorcees, people going through marriages and saying things like, I wasted my life for him. Was that true? You know what I'm saying? Was it really the truth of the matter? You know, and what's interesting to me is that we're not having the right conversations, man. And this is why the FAQ podcast was started also, is to have that correct conversation. Let's think about it in the best way. And that is what has been made exposed to me from you with life coaching, is that when you talk about your past, going back to those discussions and then re-looking at it, man, and say, yeah, I went through that abusive relationship. I went through that unfair circumstance, whether it's business related, whether it's marriage related, whether it's my parents, wherever it was with a teacher. What can I take out of that experience and then shift it? You know, it doesn't matter if it wasn't my fault 100%. The truth is, I need to survive now going forward for the rest of my life. And what can I do to shift that perspective so that it can benefit me moving forward? And I think what's amazing with the life, and Abdul mentioned the life coaching as part of the halal speed dating program, is that from what I've been exposed to the life coaching, I find that many of the participants, you will find them in the older numbers when it comes to their age. Why is that? It's because they've went through a lot in life, and they come to realization that this is where I want to be and this is the lifestyle I want to take. But why is it that we always find that we only get that realization after we went through all of those bad things in our life, man? And what I think is beautiful about halal speed dating is that you can somehow introduce that themes before marriage. You know what I'm saying? For a young couple, 18, 19, 20, 25, 30 even, to be able to head into a marriage and understand that, listen here, whatever I want from this is going to come from me first. Like, are we not saying that there could only become goodness out of such a relationship or such a stance, you know, when you walk into a marriage like that?
So there's this story, I won't say the whole story, but there's the story of a farmer man who goes through all of these trials and tribulations, these challenges, and the conversation at the end of it was always good, bad, who knows?
Yeah. I think I know the story.
Is this bad? Who knows? So that every challenge, every hurdle that he went through, community came and said, did you hear what happened? And this is, and how do you take in all of this? And your flock, and they ran away, and this is terrible. And then his response was always, good or bad, who knows? And then it took a few days later that the flock that was missing, they came back and they attracted other flocks. And it brought him double that amount. And it was like, good or bad, who knows? And then that was like, but then they came and said, aren't you happy? They came back and they brought more. And then he was like, good or bad, who knows? so this that constant conversation, you know. But this guy with this beautiful salmon colored pants here, man, you know, he's sort of very patiently waiting. I wanted to honestly know from him, having this particular initiative in your mind, Abdul Basit, you know, why were you convinced that coaching was something that you needed part of your program?
If you look at today's age and you have beautifully, you know, put yourself on the map in terms of the amount of response you will get from the program, that the participants, that they feel that they receive so much value from a life coaching aspect, right? That they can now create a better understanding of what their journey should be like, you know, because I think that's the confusion many have, that this is the expectation of what I want my journey to be, but the reality is this is what my journey is going to be. You know, and that's based on how I put myself out there, how I relook at my intentions, how I relook at my qualities within myself. So that's, you know, when I started the program, I always said, you know, because I'm in the industry of events and comedy and entertainment, I said, you know, let's bring a comedian on board, man. And I thank my team for guiding me, to tell me that's not the way to do it. Because interesting insight. I said, no, let's have some humor, let's make people laugh, let's make people feel free. But would that add enough value to the participants leaving, you know, knowing that I felt stress relieved, I laughed a bit, I heard some good jokes. But did I leave with any value?
A night off.
Did I leave with any value? That if I didn't find anyone, I'm going to contemplate and ponder upon the words of the life coach or the activities that they were involved in discovering the qualities that they need to work on more. So I think the advice from my team itself was brilliant, that we needed to bring a life coach such as yourself, or the experience on the ground.
Absolutely.
And having that power to transform the mindset, you know, because if I look at it from an organizer's point of view, sitting back and thinking to myself, when you're on stage, you know, when you're presenting your program or when you're presenting your activity to the audience, I sit back and I observe, because that's part of the nature of observing everything, you know, and I see myself, the audience, intrigued into the conversation. They are, you know, when you find potential spouses sitting across you, you're gonna look at that woman. You're gonna look around, you know. But
Scouting.
You will see the eyes and the mindset is all focused on that discussion. Yourself with Coach Yumna as well, speaking on behalf of the females, and you see that they are so intrigued into the conversation that they don't want to get out of it. And when they're out of that conversation, it ends. They're like, oh, what do I do now? They forget about the program. They forget why they were even there. They thinking to themselves like, you know, I have so much to work on. And it actually prepares them for round 2, because we will normally have the coaching element during the interval break between round 1 and round 2. So now round 2 comes, and now there's they look at the questions and they say, no, I'm gonna actually ask a better question, man. I'm gonna ask, how do you see yourself as a mother, or how do you see yourself as a righteous wife? So now the conversations are much more intellectual, much more deeper, because now they understand the reality of marriage. That it's not about just having a good time, walking on the beach, and thinking this is your wife, and posting you have a beautiful wife, you have a beautiful car.
Yeah.
Now it's about the qualities of the relationship that we need to focus on. And that's the importance of why we established the life coaching element to the program. And beautifully, I mean, you've executed that brilliant initiative and that task in transforming the mindsets of individuals so that they can know what they are signing themselves up for marriage, you know, what the journey is about. So for yourself, you know, on this platform, publicly, well done, my brother.
What? Balloons falling down. So Abdul Basit, there's something I want to just, add on to what you were saying. And I will never forget this image. It was so powerful that just as we were concluding our final week, right? The session was done. They were, okay, you're free to go now. We had 80% of participants sitting around asking real reflective questions. This is where I am now.
Yeah. And the other 20% were not interested in life coaching.
Thank you for the tip.
So you have this. Well, okay, so you have them sitting around the table, Zakir, and they were, okay, so this is what I've wanted. This is what I've changed about myself. What is my next step?
Where do I go? What's next?
What do I do? What's
Crazy.
next? And now you have these people that are so curious, that are so intrigued, they are wanting solutions, they are wanting answers. And this is the interest, this is the realizations that you've now sparked within them. Prior to coming, the conversation was only, there's no men here. I mean, in our Cape Town, like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
People that have been 8, 9, 10 years without a spouse, wanting solutions and answers. And now they're sitting around the table and like, okay, but what is it that I need to change about myself? How can I work on this? And just those questions alone, and that's the first thing I mentioned to Basit. We cannot, there are so many variables, things that we cannot control. You can't control if you're going to find interest in people that you meet here, people that you see, the kind of personalities that you are going to interact with. But there's something that you can control, and that's the amount of insight and breakthroughs that they will experience. And that is what we will facilitate. We facilitate those breakthroughs, those insights, and those questions. And that was exactly the responses that we received.
Yeah, that's the reason why we stay so late after the program.
Just in case there were a few people inquiring about the
the wives. But you know, we are here to service mankind, and whether it might be taking us up until Fajr, sitting and helping for you to discover what your solution should be. We're not going to give you the solution. You need to discover that solution, and that's where it comes down to finding that qualities within
There were little
yourself.
tricks and tips that we share. Don't get that wrong. Things that I have personally incorporated in a lot of facilitation processes that, alhamdulillah, a lot of people, well off now, married and everything, but that's a journey we will speak more about, and we can go through that narrative, inshallah. But just like Abdul Basit was saying, it's really about investing in yourself and coming forward and saying, this is the steps I want to take, and this is what I'm deciding to do based on that.
100%.
Nah, brilliant, you said, guys. I mean, you just took it over from me, eh? But no, I love it. I think it's good. I think it's a brilliant initiative, and I think with life coaching as our vehicle, and the same goes with the FAQ podcast. It's life coaching is a big part of the vehicle of what moves this discussion.
Yeah.
And going forward for the next few months and weeks, we'll be discussing the halal speed dating more. I know there's discussions of men's groups, women's groups also, branching off from the life coaching.
Yeah. And community building.
Community building. I think that's a new word that came up today.
Look,
that I feel like
in my first response, just to talk about that collective and the cultural building again, right? When you look at, and there are people who are saying, where was this in the time of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam?
Yeah. That's
House is part of the sunnah,
Yeah.
right? And if I recall correctly, a lot of the sunnah had to do with fathers, brothers, friends coming together and organizing for each other.
Jama'ah.
I don't want to say organize as to make it a an object, but they were there. You would find one of the wives passed away. Muhammad Sallallahu, here's my daughter, you're my brother, here's my daughter, here's my sister, here's my and that was the culture.
That was the community.
They
and the
could
culture.
depend on their brothers, on their teachers, on the companions.
assist, yeah.
So how do you create that kind of community again?
Yeah.
It should have never come to a point.
It should have
you know,
never.
and there's another conversation here. The conversation, and this is something that really grinds my gears. Zakir. You know, I'm so upset that we never actually went into this.
I remember this.
People say, yo, how those people are very desperate.
Desperate, yeah. Desperation.
How desperate are they to do something like? I'm like, how desperate would you be to complete half of your iman? How desperate would you be to get taskunu ilayha, to find your peace in your life, to find peace among one another? How would you be desperate, laysa min ahli, to be part? You know, if you do not, then you are not part of that sunnah.
Yeah.
So why, like, how could you say something so cynical? You know,
I hear you.
so hateful. And you sleeping so warm, and it's winter now, it was raining, you know. You sleeping so warm, but you tossing around such a comment. I find it to be extremely strange.
Yeah.
How could you sort of, you know, how could you say something like that? You know?
It comes down to another prophetic narration in Qiaz where it mentions what you want for yourself, you want for your Muslim brother as well. So if you want to sleep nice and warm tonight,
why don't you want that?
And wake up, your wife is gonna make you coffee and breakfast. You don't want it for another brother as well. You know what I mean? So it allows us to
I think it just goes back to that.
I can't think straight when I think about the
individualistic, man. That individualistic mentality.
It's an individualistic mentality.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to wrap up, guys. I think that is our time, right? So that this journey with Aspire, and I know there's a lot of things Aspire has on the to-do list and dreams and things that we're going to get to with, of course, inshallah, this group and the FAQ podcast, is to again go back to that Imtiaz. I think you just wrapped it up. That's going to be a new motto, the building of community. Again, it needs to be the, you mentioned something earlier, just want to wrap up with one thing, that, and the reality is the masajid, our ulama, are those institutes that are supposed to be the foundation,
the center,
the hub for these type of things, whether it's marriage, whether it's whatever. And we know, alhamdulillah, our masajid are busy, and they are very busy with their programs and everything and like that. But the unfortunate truth is our communities are raveled with many situations that needs to be dealt with. And maybe, unfortunately, what I'm saying is that it's too much for one imam to take on. To take on the responsibility of bringing families together through marriage. How do you do that when, as an imam, I know this for a fact, you are struggling to keep people together? You're really struggling to keep families together.
But 80% of your dialogue is about bringing down another imam.
So we need to, and that's unfortunate when ulama speaking with other ulama, you can't get started on that.
You want to get me started on that, brother? We are going to be here for a long time.
No, we can't. That's the point. That's the point of this, and we're keeping our vision pure and forward. That this is the problem we want to try to solve. We're trying to create a community, bringing communities together, creating marriages, creating stronger households, which of course just escalate thing after thing.
Yeah.
Just positivity. Children come out stronger and all of these things. So
Yeah,
inshallah,
let's let the appeal out to the scholars, you know, to the scholars.
I don't think that was on the script. Was that
I would say let's let the appeal out to the scholars who wants to get involved, you know. As the organizer, we're open for that. Who wants to get involved with the program.
I know you've always been.
There are scholars that are involved, that are part of it.
I think that I don't want to make it seem as though we like shooting so much arrows into our guidance of the community. I don't think that's what the conversation is here. But it's really about how do we create a community that is
We can assist each other.
tightly knitted,
You don't-
unified, collectivism, you know.
And then you guide it.
on the if I can add to your conclusion here, as Muhammad SAW advised to the companions before they left on their expeditions. Ya Rasulullah, what can we do to bring about this deen and to spread the love and your message? You know, in Rasulullah's words, you know, make things easy.
Allah.
Don't make things difficult. Bring people together. Don't take them apart. 1,400 years later, alhamdulillah, over 2 billion Muslims globally. You know, Muhammad, the most used name
in the world. Yeah.
With those advice. Amazing.
Sure.
Back to the basics, boys.
Back to basics.
That's a TM name. You can't use it. It's establishment just off the Kharabo. Okay, go for it.
Yeah, no, we can finish up again. Shukran to you guys coming out with our final episode of the subject. Of course, we'll open up another discussion with branching off these discussions. And we'll take it from there, inshallah. Shukran for coming here. Shukran for again tuning into the FAQ podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Alaikum salam.
Say signing out.
Signing out.